Hello, chismosas y chismosos, and welcome back to Bay Area Housewife of True Crime, where I like to tell the stories of the real cucuys and lloronas of the world. We are at part 5 of the Zephany nurse case. As a reminder, topics may be triggering. Viewer and listener discretion is very strongly advised. The people mentioned are innocent until proven guilty in court. They told Miche that they believed she was the Zephany nurse who was taken in 1997. From Miche's point of view, she believed they came very strong with little information, but they had a lot of information. This was almost a 2 decades long case. Like I said, these deputies had been working on the case for years. They asked Miche where she was born, and when she was born, she told them Retreat Hospital on the 30th of April of 1997. The officers, of course, told her that there was actually no actual record of a Miche Solomon born at Retreat Hospital on or even around that date. They told Miche that in order to eliminate any and all possibilities, they had to do a DNA test to determine if she was in fact the Zephany nurse they had been looking for all these years. Fine, Miche relented, quote, "Let's do the DNA test. I'm sure it's going to be negative anyway," end quote. Miche asked to go home, and she was not allowed because if she was in fact Zephany nurse, her steel mom would be considered a flight risk. Therefore, Miche was taken to a safe house. Marcianette Jonkerman became close to Miche during this time. She even for a time opened up her home and took Miche in during the chaos of the case, and especially after the news broke. It is unclear who leaked the news to the media. In the book, Miche believes it was probably the clinic where the DNA test was taken. In the book, Marcianette recalls breaking the news to Levana's sister, and her response was, quote, "Is that why Miche doesn't look like our family?" End quote. When Miche heard this, she thought to herself, a safe house, what could be safer than my own house with my own parents, when she had to go somewhere else. Miche also named Sophie Botha, a teacher at Swansea High School, as a confidant. Miss Botha had been an Afrikaans teacher at the high school for 18 years, and a lot of kids called her mom. Levana was arrested the very next day, and Miche was reunited with her biological parents. Celeste and Mornay Nurse were over the moon. They thanked their lucky stars, all the gods, for this miracle. But for Zephany, her life was completely turned upside down. She had an identity crisis, and understandably so. How could she not? Her whole life was a lie. The mom and dad she loved and cared for weren't actually her biological parents. Instead, her real biological parents were nothing but strangers to her. She felt nothing towards them at first. The woman who she thought was her mom was completely cut off from her and was barred from contacting her during the legal course of the case. Once the DNA results were out, the deputy social workers with the state who had been investigating the case for years both cried. Miche was just in total utter shock. They told her, quote, "Your parents would like to meet you." Celeste and Mornay walked into the room. They cried. When they saw me and hugged me, I hugged them back, but I felt nothing, absolutely nothing, end quote. Miche felt determined to show the world that Levana had raised a good person. Meeting the nurses was astounding to Miche, as they were completely different from her family. The Solomons raised Miche in a very stable home where her mom took care of everything in the house, her dad worked, and they never argued in front of her. They didn't drink or smoke. The nurses, on the other hand, were in the middle of a bitter divorce where Mornay had a girlfriend, the girlfriend he cheated on Celeste with. They smoked cigarettes in the car and listened to loud music. They were much younger than the Solomons, and Miche noticed that they acted their age. In fact, Miche believed they were immature. Because Miche was still under the age of 18. She legally was under the care of her biological parents. But Miche didn't want that. After some time, she was allowed to go back to live with Michael. Things at home with Miche and Michael were rocky at first because they didn't know what it was like to live without Lavana. Miche didn't know how to cook. She didn't even know how to make herself an egg. She never had to clean. Miche and Michael were used to coming home to a warm, home-cooked meal and a clean home. Overnight, Michael became a single father. In the book, Miche says that she felt like she was left alone to deal with the finances and the household. Miche asked her biological parents, quote, "If you guys are divorced, where am I supposed to live?" Mornay said, "We'll sort things out," end quote. And things did get messy. The book gives tons of examples, but one that stood out to me was that they offered to pay for her matrix ball dress. The matrix ball is like their version of prom. Lavana was a seamstress and was actually planning and looking forward to making Miche her dress, but as this wasn't able to happen, the nurses were happy to step in and do this for their firstborn daughter. Well, during one of the fittings for the Latin dress she picked out, Mornay took her to the appointment and brought along his girlfriend. The girlfriend even offered to do Miche's spray tan for her. And when Celeste found out, she texted Miche, quote, "How could you allow her to do your body tan after you know what she did to me and your father?" End quote. Miche replied with, "I'm not getting involved in what she did to you and your ex-husband. You both had issues. I'm not going to get involved, so don't tell me what she did because I don't want to know that nonsense." Celeste replied with, quote, "Don't make a fool out of me," and actually blocked Miche on Snapchat and canceled Miche's dress just 3 or 4 days before her ball. Michael ended up paying for the dress. Michael, the man who raised her, the man Mornay called an idiot and doinky in front of cameras. Mornay's mother called Miche a spoiled brat. The nurses wasted no time in making money off of the attention. They gave tons of interviews for profit. They wrote a book and even made a movie. Back at school, everyone started asking Miche questions about what the hell happened. All she was able to tell them was, quote, "I can't tell you what happened because the case is still pending," end quote.